Okay, everybody, looks like I've got some vocal here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. At the end of each week, it's my intention, or each part of the course, to just kind of do a quick review. First of all, let me say all of you did some excellent work. I was very impressed with the movies you selected. I was very impressed with your analysis of them. And I think that the Buckland text, this textbook on film studies, is a great text to introduce you to how movies are put together, some of the major issues that are involved with filmmaking, and to give you a perspective. And I think it's a lot like also, you know, the more you know about something, say maybe how maybe you cook, for example, and the more you learn about how the ingredients are done and that technique, it really does give you a much better appreciation of what's done. Or you see great athletes and you understand the tremendous amount of time and energy or great artists that they have to put in. So the Buckland text is a great text that takes this art form, cinema, and really shows you what a very complex artistic endeavor it is. And that's why I think, to me, movies are practically probably my favorite art form, in the sense that they engage almost all of my senses. They may engage me intellectually, emotionally, etc. Buckland goes through, I think, two big major themes about movie making. One is this idea that the director or the producer, the auteur or the author, and he uses Alfred Hitchcock, who is considered the greatest director of all time. And I've taken a course on Hitchcock. His career spanned the silent films up into the 1970s. He was indeed, when you watch a Hitchcock film, you see it, and you really get a sense of it. And I would encourage you to if you ever get a chance, to study and read about him some. But that aside, there was also the other is this idea of the genre, and a Western or a drama or romance or historical drama or even, say, a documentary. And in some senses, movies about business are kind of an interesting mix of the two of those. It shouldn't be lost on you that one of the films, a film that is widely considered one of the greatest films ever made, if not the greatest, is Citizen Kane. And Citizen Kane is about the story of a man who becomes a media mogul. He's a businessman, and it charts a cautionary tale about when things become more important to you than people. And so it's a tremendous film. And I think after you've looked at Buckland and you've seen all of these issues that we look at in terms of camera movement, lighting, makeup, you know, what drives the script, what is its role, and how are things put together, really does give you an appreciation of what you take a look at. And some of you, you know, one or two of you at least took a look at the movie about Mark Zuckerberg, and you see that he's demythologized. The mythology of this really brilliant man. What you find out is the story of Facebook's a whole lot more complicated, you know, than people knew. And you get this picture. Some of you had some other interesting business movies. One of my favorites is an all-time Christmas favorite, and Jimmy Stewart's in it. I bet you know the film I'm talking about. And you'd you know, it's one of those where you know, it talks about this man who goes back and he has these dreams to leave, and his community, but he stays and he builds a savings and loan and provides housing for people. And here he's given George Bailey, of course, and you know the movie I'm talking about now, It's a Wonderful Life. You see how he impacted his community, and to me, he's what you really see how he has been. He's a true servant leader. So it's one of my favorite business movies, although it's a great Christmas movie too. But what you see, and I hope that you will keep the Buckland text, and at your leisure, sometimes go back and read it, because I'm convinced that the more you learn about how films are made, the more you appreciate them. And I would really encourage you to when you get a chance, go over to play, if you have cable or you can go to somewhere like Turner Classic Movies and sample or take a look at the movies back from the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, and the 60s, where they don't have they're very different than what you see than what's out there today. And several of you, I talked about Moneyball, a great movie, a fantastic movie that uses a character study, that this guy is taking on this system in which you know, he's trying to change the business of baseball. He's trying to move it to Moneyball. He's trying to move to the point where you're making decisions on the basis of analytics, and baseball would be the perfect place to start, because baseball fans love statistics, love them. And so you see now analytics are creeping into all of these sports. And so, you know, again, some good movies, and your ratings and your comments reflect that you understand now about a little bit about how movies are put together. And today, as the text talks about, the idea of independent film production, which means that you don't have the big studio systems of the past. You have people who they decide to become a director, they go get some money put together, and they get some buzz about a film and away they're going. So these people, somebody like, say, Tom Hanks, very successful. Steven Spielberg, very successful. They are entrepreneurs as much as they are artists, because they have to raise the money for their film and be concerned about how the gross will be and all of that. So your responses were quite good, and I hope that you found the Buckland text a quick and easy read. He gives you a lot of bullet points. He gives you a lot of information, and the spotlight parts are quite good. Again, I think you know, you also will probably want to take a look at. Some of you may find film noir, or the techniques of that film noir genre used. And one of my favorite movies is called Executive Suite, and that movie uses many of the techniques of film noir in terms of the lighting, in terms of characters who are morally good people, but morally are not perfect. A hero who has got his own flaws, and it's the story of how a company owner who saved a company. He dies, and his executive team has to come together to select a successor. And you see, and in the last 5 minutes of that film, if you watch it, you're going to see a discussion that rings true even today about, why do I create a business? What is the purpose of a business for? What does it do? Well, again, my compliments on your movie exercises and what you got done. And next, you know, for part 2, you're going to be looking at the Foster text, which I think you'll find it to be of great value to you. And then, of course, part 3 is the Squires text. But here in this Buckland text, we kind of get an introduction to how films are made. And what we're going to see here then now is we're going to see in the last 2 parts of the course how the movie business is very much like almost every other business in the United States. Okay. At its height, when movies were produced literally on an industrial scale, and you go to Hollywood, the old studios, they were like factories. In fact, Hollywood was called the Dream Factory, and you're going to see that. And then eventually you're going to get into some of the issues of the genres, the types of films, and how they impact us. And so those things are covered in the Foster text and the Squires text. But I hope that this was good for you and a good introduction. I really think the Buckland book is this text is one that kind of keep it like a handbook, and hopefully you'll watch a movie with a lot more attention to what's happening in the movie, and I believe that you'll enjoy it that much more. You're going to find that if you're paying attention, you're going to see how does a director use perspective. Do we see things from the character's perspective, or do we see what they call an omniscient, where the actors are all there and you can see them? The use of lighting, costumes, the period. Is it a genre type of movie versus one that the director takes a story and puts his or her stamp on it? So I think you'll have a greater appreciation of cinema. And even today, where the cinematic experience is so different for people, with all of these special effects, with all of the computer animation, the incredible stuff they do, you got to have a story, and you've got to have characters that are approachable and believable. And I think that that you're going to find. I think also you'll want to take a look at Buckland and think about this in terms of video games, because the video games are an art form that are a direct descendant of cinema. Video games immerse you in the middle, and you're actually participating in that, as opposed to being an observer like you are in a film, although you can experience the emotions and all the stuff that happens. I think in the end, what you'll find is that you're going to understand and enjoy movies a lot more when you come out. For example, I think, when you see Moneyball, okay, and you see as he's offered a job from the Red Sox, and that scene where he walks in, and he's been in Oakland, in this nasty, shabby, rundown place. He's in Oakland in the 80s. In the 1970s, the Oakland Athletics won 2 world championships in a row, and I think they're either in 1 or 2 more World Series. They're one of the great teams of all time. And then the franchise withered and began to die and became mediocre. And you could see the difference between the Oakland, their facilities, and when you go in and see Fenway Park and the Green Monster, this incredibly beautiful baseball palace, and the ambiance of the Red Sox. That really gives you an opportunity to say, wow, they really used that visual picture to give me that feeling of, whoo, this is the big time. And so Billy had to make a decision. And you see how Billy is, how he lives, not on the greatest style, and you really get a peek behind the scenes, and you see some of the actors and the blocking and the sets, how people are arranged. You get some of that. You get some of the behind the scenes stuff, if you will. Well, anyway, I wanted to say I appreciated your responses on the self-developed quiz. Did a good job on them, but I was especially pleased with your work on the business movie exercises. And I hope this will help you not only understand business a little better and how it's depicted, but also that it will just, any movie you see, it will add to your enjoyment of them. Again, thank you so much for a great week. You did a good job, and I'm looking forward to seeing your responses to the Foster text.